Hello. Today I want to talk to you about the different types of palettes that I have used when I've been working with acrylic paints. Because they dry so fast, sometimes it's discouraging and we think, oh dear, I'm wasting my paint to put the paints out. But I have one in particular that I really like that I've been using lately that I've kept my paints wet for months. So it might surprise you. But anyway, today I'm going to show you several palettes that I have used. And we're going to kind of talk about why I like them, etc. So join me, Holly Hunter Berry, as we go over the selection of palettes that I have today. The Masterson Sta Wet series of palettes, this is what's inside the box that came with this large one, is a really unique system. I really love it. It's really nice and it works for a lot of people. How it works is this. This is a package, a hefty package of extras. This is the sponge. I'm making a mess here. And you wet it, of course, and there's the directions that come with it. You wet it, you squeeze it out, and you lay it inside the box here. And then they have paper that is specially made for this system. And so it sits on top of your wet sponge, and it allows the moisture to come through the paper. And so when you put your paints out on your palette that you're going to be using, it keeps them moist. And then you put the top on when you're finished, and it keeps them wet for the next session. Now, how long does it last? Well, not forever, but it lasts a pretty long time. The thing is, what I like about it is you can make a mixture, and, well, it depends on how thick your mixture is. If it's a pile of paint and there's a lot to it, then it'll last for a while. But the lumps of paint that you put in here will definitely stay wet for quite a while. Now, there are times when the paper might appear moldy and you might have problems with that. And so what happens is there's actually in the instructions that are in here somewhere, it does tell you what to do. You can spray, I think, ammonia and maybe hydrogen peroxide on it. Now, this is large. It's 12 by 16, and I like the larger size for when I'm working in my studio because I use a lot of paints. Now, I brought with me a couple other different sizes. For plein air painting, that's always a challenge. I haven't mastered that yet because I like to do layers, and so it's not my style of painting, so I want to take forever to finish a painting. But I have been struggling with, when I do paint outside, how to keep my paints wet. So this is a smaller box. It'll fit in my French easel. And of course, this kit came with, lots of papers and so forth. So I would say, because it's small, I would only put in a few of the paints the limited palette of colors that I would use. And this is a sponge. You'd wet it and you put the papers on top. Now, because if you can see, it's deep, kind of like the other one is, not as deep as the others. But, you could put a pile of paint there and it would stay wet longer than if you had a very thin layer of paint. Now, that's part of the issue when you're working with acrylics, when you mix them rather, and you keep mixing the colors and you thin it out, you mix, it dries fast. But if you keep a pile of paint thicker, it will not dry so quickly. As a matter of fact, it might stay wet quite a bit longer. Now, these palettes, let's see, what size would this be? This is an 8.5 by 7. So that's really a nice little size. It doesn't carry it won't hold all the paints that I like to use because I use it a lot. And when I teach my method for mixing colors, that's not going to hold all my colors. But anyway, this works great for travel, or if you're just going to put a few colors out and experiment with a very limited palette, this would be a nice little size here. No issue. Now, this one, because I'm excessive, I have to show more. Okay, so this is more of a square, it's the yellow lid. And let's see, again, the sponges and the paper, etc. This is more of a 13 by 12, almost a square. What I thought was interesting about this particular palette is, let me pull this advertisement out again, and the instructions are these cups up here that you can use, that you put mixtures in. I think is pretty handy. Now, I haven't used these, but they kind of remind me of condiment cups where you put ketchups and so forth in there. Anyway, but the idea would be, let's say you're mixing an area and it has to be that absolute color and you can't run out. Acrylics dry a little bit darker than when they're wet, and so you can never really match them very well. So it would be handy to have some containers of your colors. This also might be a selection where maybe an artist might want to put a lot of certain colors that they use out of the tube even. It keeps them, sealed in here, and they would not dry out so fast. The same idea, same premise. You'd have the sponge, and you would have the papers that fit on top, and it would last for a while. Now, I can't tell you if it lasts weeks, months, days, or whatever. I do believe that it's an experimentation with how much water, how much moisture in the sponge, how much paint you put out, how thick is the lump of paint. Did you squirt a lot out and put it on there? It just depends. So, but again, a lot of people use this system, whether it's the larger box or this size or the little one. A lot of people do it, and they're very, very happy with it. In my classes that I teach, a lot of students use this, and they really love it. Now, let's see, I've got quite a mess here. I want to talk about the palette that I like to use, and I kept the label, the latest label. They've changed it over the years. The company is Mijello, M-I-J-E-L-L-O. Now, what I like about this is, first of all, it's small, it's handy. There's no sponges involved. Some people actually put a little sponge, they'll cut it and stick it in here and keep it wet, so it's not necessary though. The trick with this, I think, from what I've uncovered over the years, is you need to be brave and put enough paint in the wells so that they won't dry out. Because if you put just a little drop in there because you're scared of wasting paint, it's going to dry out pretty quick. The other thing that I've learned over the years from listening to my students when they use these is kind of put the lid on, and then I really push down hard, and hear the air go out, and then I close it, okay, on all four sides. That's important, I guess, because, well, the only thing I can think of is I've always done that, and I've never had a problem, whereas some students that have not done that, a lot of them have, not a lot, but many have had issues with them drying out. But I guarantee the ones that do not put enough in the wells, they run into a problem. Now, if you can see, it's pretty, they're deep. Now, I don't fill the whole area up here. I'll use this maybe I'll put a little bit, I'll squirt the tube in here, maybe like white over here, and maybe another color, but I might use these large spaces for maybe the white paints. I use a lot of white, but I don't fill it up all the way at once. But these, yes, and I'll show you an example of mine. Now, and I will have links to all these down below. Okay, now this one, I confess, I've not used, but I thought it was a really cool idea. So here we go. This is very small, very teeny tiny small. Oh yeah. Okay, all the sides you got to undo. So the idea that I'm thinking is it's airtight, which is why this other one, the Mijello one, really works. Okay, this I think would be an interesting palette to fill up, and it's got a little thumb holder here, or however you want to hold it. You would definitely fill up the holes with the colors you like. No mixing in here. Now, some people might, no, I wouldn't try to mix on there. But anyway, they, to clean it, that'd be interesting. So I think that might be best to just keep filling it up when you run out of paint with the same color. But I would imagine that you, just like what I'm going to show you in a minute from now, how to clean the Mijello palette, is that you would let it air dry and then kind of peel it out. Might be a little tedious, but I think it'd be a nice, handy little device. And actually, painting outside with the wind blowing and everything, the wind would only hit across the top, and it wouldn't hit down below where the paint's down below inside there. I think it might be an excellent palette to work for outside. I have seen people use larger, like let's see, like a bead box, where the holes might be a little bit bigger, and they put the paint in there and they fill it up with the paint, and they do well painting outside. So I think that's an option for working outside for those of you that think that you only use oil or watercolor for outside. Again, I'll have a link online. I found this on Amazon, and so that's kind of what the box looks like. So, okay, now I'm going to talk to you about this New Wave advertisement that was in the box. So what's this about? The New Wave company, they have this glass that's painted gray on one side, like a neutral color, middle value gray, so you can see your paints better. And actually, that's really the way to go, so you can judge what your mixtures look like. But I did get one of these, and I'm going to show you in a minute where I have it. And oddly enough, the paints lasted a long time. So it's not having a sponge inside. It's just kept the lid tight, closed tight, and for some reason, it lasted fine. So the Masterson system with the sponges works, and somehow the one with the glass works, just like the Mijello works. So let me stop here, and I'm going to show you the Mijello palette that I have that's full of dry paint, and show you how to clean it and show you how much paint I put in there and what a mess I make. And I'm also going to show you the one with the glass palette, how to keep it clean, etc., and what it looks like. Okay, this is the Mijello palette that I've been using. Ah, yes, yes, it's a mess. I let it air dry, but every maybe 6 months or so, I'll just let it air dry. And it is sad because some of the paints are, were wet, and it's like, oh dear. But it just gets, gets old. Some of the paints are dry, some of them are gone. It's just, it gets time. I mean, it literally could be 6 months. Because what happens is when they get, like I run out of a color, I'll just keep putting the color on top, and it's okay. It's not a problem. So how do I clean this mess? Well, I let it, like I said, I let it air dry, and then, you can sit here and just peel it off. It's kind of fun after a while. So you just keep peeling, and you can just pull these out. And so that's kind of cool. So that's easy. That's why I was saying I was concerned about this little one over here, wondering how I would get that clean. I would probably let it air dry and see it, get my little finger in there, or maybe a little screwdriver or something, kind of poke it out and pop it out. Now, what happens when, like, there's an area down here where it's kind of, I got some of it out, but it seems like some of them are left and not as easily scraped out. So here's what I do. I just keep picking. I pull out as much as I can. Then I'll get like a plastic box that I've got, storage box or whatever, and I sit it inside there with a little bit of water on top, overnight, a couple of days, whatever. And then I drain it like into a towel or something, so I don't want that to go down the sink. And then I just use like an old toothbrush or something and just kind of scrub, and the paint just comes right off, and it's clean and ready to go. So that's not even an issue. Now you can mix your colors in the center here like you see me do. You can mix them on the lid. No big deal. That works. But I tell you my process. Obviously I mix them on here. But typically I have all my colors on here. And how do I group them, by the way? Let me just mention, I kind of didn't do it with this mess, but typically I'll group the families together. I don't have a hard and fast rule for where I put them because I've been painting so long. I know where my paints go. So I put my families like yellows, reds, etc. all together. This one got a little out of control, but that's typically what I do. Then what I'll do is I'll use a foam dinner plate, not the paper ones because they'll soak up the paint and it'll dry faster. So I'll use this to mix my colors. And when I'm at home and not teaching, I just keep layering and layering and layering because I can tell the color I'm mixing on top of an old dried up color, so I don't waste the paints. I mean the paints and the plates. But what happens is here in class, what I'll do is use a clean plate so people can see the mixture. But at home, you can just keep painting on top of dry paint. Or you can put gesso on top of here, make it white again. Or if you really want to see like a middle value gray, they even have gray gesso. You can put middle value gray gesso, put it on there and go to town. Mix your colors on there. But anyway, options. You can mix your colors here. And as it dries, you can just peel it. Or you can just paint on top. And, people don't have to have, I can't stop peeling. Oh, okay, a little added extra information. Let's say you peel these off. Some people actually use these as collage pieces because it's paint, and you just they glue them onto their painting in different areas. And you just use gloss medium or matte medium, whatever you prefer, because it's paint. Cool, huh? Anyway, so there's that. Now, let's see. So basically, put the colors in there, and the reason I like this is this. This is a big one. I use a lot of colors when I mix. I don't just go, oh, green for my trees. No, I'm adding a hair of this and a hair of that. So what happens is if I don't have the colors out and accessible, I'm going to say, oh, I don't want to waste them. I don't want to do that. So what happens is I don't have the best outcome because I don't have all the colors out that I should. So this is very handy. Whereas on the Masterson palette, maybe a person would put, like on the larger one, all your colors out. But this lasts me months. And I'm not sure the Masterson palette would. It might. I really don't know because I haven't tried it, leaving it out for months. But I do have an idea that might work also. You could go ahead and have a palette like this, then have one of the Masterson's palette, maybe a little smaller one or maybe the large one, and use it to mix your colors. That might be an option because I think both palettes are excellent. But because this holds so many for so long, I just love it. Now, one more. We talked about the new wave, little advertisement that was in the Masterson palette. And here's what I've used. And again, this is a little scary because it's air dried. But here we go. Now, this has the blue lid. It's the Masterson palette also. And I apologize, I don't remember the difference between the blue lid and the red. But here we are. Okay, so got a little paint on there. Now, I let this air dry. I had put out a lot of my paints, kind of like what I normally do in the Mijello palette. But I have to make sure that I open it and spritz it with water, just a fine mist. Not too much, because if you put too much, it gets runny and it ruins the integrity of the paint. But again, these will pop right off, hopefully. Oh, dear. They're supposed to. Okay, there we go. Yeah, see? It peels off. It's glass. Now, I do have the knife here. When it's wet, you could spray it with water and peel it off. But you can also do this right now. It comes off really nice. So it's really easy. And you're back to gray. Now, what I really like about the gray, which is a typical, traditional method of painting, is when you're on a middle value gray, you're able to see your lights and darks better. Because actually, when we start painting and we're painting a lot and keep going, our paints end up being somewhat of a middle value gray anyway. I'm sorry, not a middle value gray, but they end up being sort of a middle value. So when you're comparing your colors and your mixtures, it's easier to see up against a gray what they would look like on your painting. And so that's why when I work and I mix my colors on here, I'm so used to seeing what they do. But oftentimes when I'm making a mixture on a white surface and I put the brush stroke on my canvas, right away it might be a little bit off because of my eye seeing it on white is going to look different when it's mixed on here. Right away I adjust it and change it. I'm just so used to painting that way. So it's not a problem. But for a beginner or somebody who's just trying to maneuver your way through the mixing of colors, etc., it might be a challenge to mix your colors here and your eyes see what you mixed and you think it looks like a certain value, like a really light or really dark, and you put, versus if you mixed it on gray, it would look a little different. And then when you actually put the paint you mixed over here onto your painting, you might go, oh, it's not light enough or it's not dark. It's going to be a little different value than you expected it to be. But it's not a problem. It's adjustable. You just keep adjusting. But it's something to overcome. So what do I prefer? Okay, honestly, I really prefer this. Really, really do. Because I know from experience how long I can keep these paints wet. Now, I will say it's not advisable to go weeks without opening the box. So when I close the box, or the lid rather, I go ahead and I mist it with some water. And then when I open it, I mist it. Now, if you're painting where there's a lot of heat or humidity or dry or wind or all different elements like the air conditioner vent, the heater, all different things, that affect your drying time. So pay attention, and as you're painting, every once in a while mist it with some water so that it keeps the paint from drying out. Some colors dry out faster than others. Some get used faster. So for example, the white, I use white all the time. We should have like gallons of white paint. So the yellow, I use a lot of yellow. So let me peel this out. Yay. Okay, so some colors I don't use as much, but it's like a piano. We have all the keys. We don't use them for every song. I don't use all the paints colors for every painting. So what happens is, yes, there are times that there's going to be some paint squirted out into here that's not used up like I wish it was. Now, Cad Orange is not, I've used a lot of that. It's sunk down in there. Let's see, how should I explain how much to put in there? You can see these weren't used up that much. Kind of like a blob in here. I'm not saying fill it all the way up to the top. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying put enough in there where it's not just, like if you started out with just a little bit like that, it's going to dry. This part dries. This pack in here, it's not going to dry so much. So you have to kind of see what's happening. Like right here, this little bit might be okay. It lasted. It didn't get dry right away. But you got to be careful how much paint you put in there. But I do know for a fact that if you have just a little drop in there, it's going to dry. Like if you squirted it out just a little bit, kind of like that looks, you can barely see that because it's white. That's not going to work. It's not going to stay wet very long. I just had to peel that. I just got to do it. I just have to. Anyway, so what's going to happen is I'm going to be peeling all this out, kind of clean it up, and I'll put new paint in there. Now you can see I don't use black very often because look at that. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I got to stop. So appreciate if you have any questions, comments, suggestions. There might be a palette you've used that you like. feel free in the comments to let me know. And I'd love it if you could like and subscribe to my channel. I am just getting started here, and I appreciate your interaction with me, and I hope to do many, many more to help you with your time in your studio. So thanks for hanging out with me, and I hope this was helpful.